All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome along. Mysterious Chicago is on the air, live from Chicago. You Mars. Strange things happen. Good evening, Chris. Hey, Martin. Hey, everybody. Hey, all around. Welcome, everybody. Oh, wrong window here. That's where we ought to be. Hey, Chuck. Hey, Karen. Hey, Bill and Dina. Hey, Timothy and look who's. Hey, Maureen. Miles wants all the attention but doesn't want to be held. He just wants to claw his way up my back. Hey, Cindy and Christine, Lorena. Hey, Mom. Hey, Emily. Hey, Alex. Hey, James in Utah. Hey, Gene. What is... Hey, Cindy. Hey, Cindy. Hey, Betsy. Hey, Leah. July 14th or 15th. Hadn't planned on one. The 16th we are. 14th is going to be, that's a week from today, so we'll be broadcasting from here. Why is GarageBand even open? Why does it keep asking me if I want to use Microsoft Teams audio? No, I do not. Hey, Bruce. Hey, Tracy. Hey, Jim. Hey, Ellen. Hey, Sherry in Seattle. Hey, Kelly. Hey, Christine and Doreen. Hey, Jolene. We're glad to have you. Chris, that Nintendo Zapper's only for ducks, but I can do the dog. Hey, Robert. Hey, Octavio. Hey, Gina. Hey, Elaine. It's Timothy. Hi, everybody. Hey, Debbie. Hey, Pam. Timothy. Hey, everybody. Hey, Georgia. Hey, Teresa. Hey, Bob. Hope you're feeling better. We got Priya lurking around in the background there. Hey, Donna and Marie. Miles is sitting right next to me, being good. Hey, Carolyn. Mona, that is the plan. Ow, Miles. Miles here. Make your contractually obligated appearance. Hey, Laura. And hey, John. Oh. Hey, Kathleen, that'll be fun. Hey, Dana. Yeah, Robert actually did the peer review, the last round of peer review for that book.
Benny Goodman presents Helen Ward singing With All My Heart.
We might have an interesting one today. We're going to be doing, I didn't have I got so caught up with doing boat tours and stuff yesterday, I didn't really have a chance to relearn all of this like I normally would. So I got some notes. Steve, I went to school at a small school in Georgia. Hey, Kurt. Let's turn this volume up a bit. Elaine, that's awesome. Megan, glad to have you here. Hey, Liz. We have a good solid hour today. You're gonna be watching me kind of flailing today, guys. It happens sometimes. There's not a lot of pre-orders for this one, so I kind of figure it's on me if I screw it up. If that person wants, if the one donor I think we have so far wants their money back for it. All right, Dad, thanks. They got some good archives down there, the Georgia State Historical Archives in Savannah. I went through some Button Gwinnett stuff there one time. They've actually got bits of his bones and hair. Or at least what they thought might be his bones and hair when somebody dug up. Oh, Laura, it's just a company that I freelance for occasionally. Just to stay in practice so that when I do a proper boat tour for you guys, I'll stay in practice. Hey, Grace. Hey, Kathy. I'll say the stars above you to say again I love you with all my heart. Hey, Georgie. Hey, Bob, you take care. Bob, I missed what's up. He's kind of... The comments don't always come in the right order for me, you know. All right, Donna, congrats. People are getting the Graceland books in. That's awesome. A little bit early. Perfect. Play Me Backwards, Heather. All right, that's my favorite of my young adult novels. The ice cream place was based on a real place. Last place I saw my friend Brian. Hey, Cindy. Hey, Gene. Hey, Dean. Hey, Mary. I will give Benny a few more minutes here. Hey, Vicky. And Miles is presently just lounging on the floor here. Hey, Tracy. Sparks is a pretty good one, too. I don't know if it holds up as well. We'll see. Well, you know, today so much this is tomorrow's hella problematic. Just the way of the world. Did you all hear Bob Dylan sold a recording for 1.2 million pounds today? It's a one-off new studio rendition of Blowin' in the Wind. He and T-Bone Burnett are trying to see if they can do audio recordings like fine art, selling off a one-of-one copy that will only ever be one copy. Not that I didn't have a bootleg 2 hours after the auction. Kathy, next week is Gold Coast. Hey, June. Yeah, you guys can come out and do a boat tour narration. That's all right. You want to dance? Hey, Barbara.
And they all loved it.
This isn't new one. I've only done it a couple of times before.
And now another one just in the same vein. Rosetta.
The first time I did it, the numbers were so low that I'm doing this one again. Then I did it again anyway because I like it. The numbers were also pretty low. But alright, I'll do it tonight. So I actually like this one quite a bit. I think it's some really cool stuff. Heidi Hart, sorry to hear that. May his memory be for a blessing. Hey, Chris. Bridget, your mom is right. Miles is a very pretty boy. Now currently he's trying to close the laptop, which won't be good for anyone. Octavio, my accidental walk into a strip club in New York was enough of these things for me. I don't know how to operate in spaces like that. At least why it's not vanilla ones. Hey, Rob. We're letting Benny Goodman finish this up, and then we're going to get started. Hey, Lisa. Hey, Gene. Miles is being kind of clingy right now. I think he knew it was about time, so. Welcome along, everybody, especially those of you just joining us. We're letting Benny Goodman finish up this one song. I got Miles' cat hair all over my face now. Oh, Doreen, I thought it was a cocktail bar. $40 and one beer later. It felt like a country rube in an 1880s morality novel. And I never even got to see the elephant. Hey, Gary. Christmas movies, you gotta be kidding me. I don't even like them at Christmas time. Alright, it's Benny wrapping it up. Hey, Dave and Barb.
Music by Benny Goodman is being presented from the Joseph Urban Room.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that is Benny Goodman live from the Joseph Urban Room of the Congress Hotel in downtown Chicago. It's a little bit after 8 o'clock. That means it is time that we get started. So welcome along, everybody, coming to you from my messy living room. I'm Adam Seltzer from Mysterious Chicago Tours. I've been a tour guide and historian here in Chicago for going on 20 years now. I've got about a dozen Chicago history books out. I'm on the History Channel, the Travel Channel, all the time. So I am incredibly famous, and you should definitely pay attention to whatever I say. Among my relevant books are Mysterious Chicago, the book, The Smart Aleck's Guide to American History, now badly out of date, H.H. Holmes, The True History of the White City Devil, subject of next weekend's walking tour, Murder Maps USA, which I understand is being reviewed for Ellery Queen's Mystery Magazine right now. I just got an email from the guy who's reviewing it that says he's enjoying it tremendously, so apparently it's going to be a good review, so I can relax a little bit. And also the brand new Graceland Cemetery, Chicago's Stories, Symbols, and Secrets, out now from University of Illinois Press. Officially not out for another month or so, but copies are shipping now. I think most of the people who ordered it have gotten it by now, really. So tonight's topic is, this is really one of my favorite tours. It's called the Shooting Showgirls. Something I noticed, there's a pattern researching these stories. Quite a lot of women over the years have tried to parlay fame acquired by being a part of a front-page newspaper scandal into a career on the vaudeville stage, or the Broadway stage, or the movies. It's the kind of thing that still works today every now and then. You know, it's hard to monetize fame, but people have always tried to do it. Now, here's the full disclosure. Normally, this one takes a lot of extra research, but since I picked up some boat tour shifts yesterday and ended up stuck in traffic today, I didn't have much time to really research all of these or do a whole run-through going back through things. So we're going to see what happens, but I'm shooting blind from a certain point of view.
From a certain point of view?
What? You're not, Aiden.
I am.
From a certain point of view.
I get it. I am he as you are me, and you are me, and we are all together.
Yeah.
This has been your moment of Zen Goo Goo Gajoob. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to Aiden and Benito out over there. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. We will start just a little bit. Everybody knows perhaps the most popular story of this sort of thing.
Ladies
Rocks
and
You
gentlemen,
Hard,
the Chicago Theater is proud to announce
It is fairly well known that Chicago the musical was based on a couple of major Chicago
not
murder
only
stories.
one little lady, but two.
Hugh and Velvet Gardens. Here they are. It's
Here they are, Chicago's own killer dillers, those scintillating sinners, Roxy Hart and Val McCully.
This is going to give me some copyright dings. But based on a couple of women from actual Chicago history. However, unlike in the movie, unlike in the real life, they actually did not try to go on stage. That was just everybody else who tried to go on stage. There were some rumors that one of them was thinking about it, because practically everybody was thinking about it. It does not really seem to have happened in real life. So let's move back a little bit further in time. This is one I've covered enough that I'm not worried that I'll forget any of the story here. This is one that comes up on the after hours ones. This is also a gravestone that takes place, that will appear on the Chicago tour this weekend, the Graceland tour, the walking tour. This is one of the saddest ones. It's the Mr. Carter's plot. James Carter was a businessman. When his wife died, they put up a gravestone that simply said, Mama's grave. That would have been Helen Carter, his wife. I think I got a picture of her here. Maybe I don't, but she's not really the story. They're supposed to, I see. One of those things that got lost in translation someplace. Let's find it. I thought I at least had all of the stuff I needed in here. But it's a really interesting picture, but it's also, I just like it because he looks so cherubic, and I know way too much about his sex life. There we go. Cabinet card, that's Mrs. Carter. That's the mama of Mama's grave, with her little son, Leslie. Leslie grew up to be a lawyer and married a woman by the name of Carolyn. Then, as you can see here, Mr. Carter's involuntary bath. Witness questioned about throwing a pitcher of water on her husband. Mrs. Carter did not have a happy marriage with Mr. Carter. Now, in particular, their sex life was really odd. She seems to have gotten married without having any idea about sex, was really horrified what had happened. He said, well, honey, maybe we should just try it the French way. Then he spent the rest of the night explaining, well, no, that's how women of all classes in France do it. I'm not saying you're low class. Just oral. But there's Mr. Leslie Carter himself. It was a rather acrimonious divorce. They dragged Mrs. Carter herself especially absolutely through the mud. They eventually realized that she was the one, well, determined that she was the one at fault. I shouldn't say realized, because the newspapers are just awful on this. They're saying things like, well, the mere fact that she would talk about such things indicates that she must be the guilty party. Even though she had begged and begged not to talk about them, the judge had ordered her to do so. So, the divorce granted and no alimony given, Mrs. Carter decided to make arrangements to go on the stage. As you can see here, this was very early on. Everybody kind of assumed that it was just going to be stunt casting. In fact, the newspapers have made a big deal about how she doesn't seem to be a very good actress on stage. But started appearing in a show called The Ugly Duckling in Brooklyn. And the play was condemned. People thought the play really sucked. But did have to admit that she was pretty good in it. It didn't suck because of her. So not only was it considered a success, but she went on to become an actress on Broadway. But she kept using Mrs. Leslie Carter as a name. Eventually, people started dropping the Mrs. She had just stolen her ex-husband's name. There are all these stories about her saying, well, I'll make his name famous from coast to coast. How true that is difficult to know. But she was eventually in a number of silent films throughout the 1910s after films became a thing, made the move from Broadway to screen. And even in the 1930s, after talkies took over, she was still around. By then she was pretty old, but she was still making appearances in like old lady roles in westerns. There she is.
Mr. Murdoch, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
I am. I know you ain't mixed up with these crimes, Mrs. Borg, but a duty's a duty.
Well, I hope you haven't upset the rest of my belongings. Oh, That's the real old stuff. I shouldn't offer you any after the way you've acted, but will you have a drink?
Oh, no, I never touch it. Besides, I'm on duty. It looks like mighty nice stuff, though.
Won't you change your mind?
No, I don't care for it. You know,
Well, I do.
Mrs. Borg, I'm just plumb sorry that you catch me searching things this way.
Oh, I know you didn't want to do that. It probably was Mr. Sutton's idea. At times, I wonder if he really is a mining engineer. He seems so interested in this household.
Oh, he's all right, Mrs. Borg.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me
Yeah, she
if
doesn't
you
look
found
like
that
very
he's
old in
connected
this.
with that Jack Parsons.
Who, Larry? Why, you're plumb crazy.
Well, I'm probably not as easily taken in as you are, Mr. Murdoch.
Let me tell you, Mrs. Borg, I'm pretty hard to fool.
I'm kind of getting into the
Nobody
plot
ever
here.
put anything over on me.
Nothing.
Was this guy a bad guy or what? Or was he really a mining engineer?
No,
I'm plumb curious. Right. The guy described himself as plumb something or other multiple times in that one. So she's not actually buried here. Obviously, she did not want to be buried with her ex-husband, but the name Leslie Carter became famous and she was still using it long after he was dead. She's a fairly rare instance among stories like this of someone who was actually successful doing something like this. Because it's kind of all downhill from here. Let's move on a little bit here. 1902, there was a woman named Florence Burns up in New York. She was, lived up around here on Glen Island Avenue over in Brooklyn, and was the boyfriend of a guy that was sometimes known as the Belle of Bedford Avenue. She ran with a group that was sometimes called the Bedford Avenue Gang. Not too much is known about them, but she's the subject of this book, The Belle of Bedford Avenue, by Virginia McConnell, who has also covered a couple other people I talk about, like Minnie Wallace, and writes very, very good books. They're kind of hard to find. They don't tend to be ebooks, but they are excellent books. They're very, very well researched. Does a great job with it. So Florence Burns was a young rich woman who was dating a guy by the name of Walter Brooks, who was best known for having been a Brooklyn high school football hero. He was out of high school by the time all of this went down, but that was still what they remembered him for, was high school football. So he was found shot to death in a hotel room. There's actual footage of the hotel room itself, all made up and everything. But even though he was lying there dead with a gunshot wound in his head, there was no revolver found. So clues went all around. Murder was charged to a girl. Florence Burns of Flatbush, the young man's sweetheart, is now in jail. The mother of Brooks identified a comb as one belonging to Flo. But all of the evidence was really shaky and circumstantial, and you can see that there's a lot of sensational qualities. Anytime they find a body in the nude, they're gonna bring it up, even if it's a guy. So all of the evidence was absolutely shaky and circumstantial. They brought in a guy by the name of William Travers Jerome to be the attorney. He ended up being the attorney in a couple of these places. And after enough time, she was exonerated. They found that the comb looked like hers. Somebody had taken the gun away. Somebody had a motive to kill him. But all of that evidence is just shaky and circumstantial. It could have been somebody else killing him, and he just happened to have his comb in his pocket or something like that. It happens. So she ended up deciding to, having been on the stage all of this time, she went on to Haydn Bayman's Music Hall, which was a New York thing. This is the Chicago Haydn Bayman's Music Hall that was built into the old Iroquois Theater, and sang a song called Gracie Brown Was a Very Naughty Girl. I don't believe I was ever able to find a copy of that one, Gracie Brown. But this was considered kind of a scandal. A lot of people thought it was absolutely horrible that they were having this woman on stage, especially other actresses who were getting bumped for this kind of stunt casting. And by all accounts, it was not particularly great. We can see here, Flory wasn't scared, but she couldn't sing. Burns' girl's debut as a Broadway star proved a dismal and pitiable failure. I was able to find at least the lyrics of, I guess I could sing it. Gracie Brown was a girl with a naughty wink, was Gracie Brown. She wore a straw hat and a dress that was pink, did Gracie Brown. She lived in a village where the boys were few, but the boys that were there had hearts were true, for now they all sigh with a tear in the eye for Gracie Brown. Gracie Brown, she's out of town, she's the kind that girl that's hard to find, is Gracie Brown. We're all blue and we sigh for you. If you change your name, and we will know you the same as Gracie Brown. Well, I'm not making it too catchy, I suppose. I'm never going to make it on the vaudeville stage either. I've come to accept that. So a few years later, she was sentenced to about 14 years in prison for extortion. Went to Sing Sing. First she went to sing, then she went to Sing Sing. Let us move on. A lot of these women look about alike. These people from the early 20th century all had exactly the same haircut and dressed pretty much exactly the same. 1904, there was a chorus girl by the name of Nan Patterson, best known as a chorus girl in what was known as the Florodora Chorus. Here's an example of copied this dance of Mr. Walker to show that was on the stage. It was actually the stage. Different songs, same dance. When you hear it with your fire. Now watch, this one's a banger.
Tell me, pretty maiden, are there any more at home like you?
There are a few kind girls, but simple girls and proper too.
Then tell me, pretty maiden, what is very simple girlies do?
One of these chorus girls by the name of Nan Patterson ended up going for a ride in a cab with her boyfriend, a guy by the name of Caesar Young, who also happened to be married to someone who wasn't her. They got to about Broadway and Franklin, at which point he was shot. Now, the case seemed fairly obvious to some. She must have shot him while they were in the car together. So, ended up going on trial multiple times, but they couldn't quite prove what had happened. The angle was wrong for a suicide, like she said initially. The one story was that she had pulled out a gun and saying, "If you won't leave your wife for me, I will shoot myself." And they had struggled for the gun, and then ended up accidentally shooting himself, which is about as plausible as it comes. There were, first trial was a hung jury. Second trial, one of the jurors had a stroke and they had to start all over again. One of the big pieces of evidence was the gun itself. The gun, whether it was hers or whether it was his. A pawnbroker had just sold the gun, and he said that he sold it to people who matched the description of Nan's sister and brother-in-law, but they could not be found. For the last trial, they were found, and the pawnbroker said he wasn't quite sure that it was them. So, eventually, on the third trial, she was acquitted. Here she is with her father. Once again, defended by William Travers Jerome. This was we're getting into the era now when you're seeing a lot more illustrated newspapers. Begs jury for her life. And here's what she had for dinner. Her Thanksgiving entombs, prison in the dinner bill of fare. Oxtail soup, turkey stuffed with chestnuts, cranberry sauce, stewed tomatoes, mince pie, ice cream, coffee. Not bad. But finally, on the third time, she was acquitted and immediately announced her intention to go on stage. Here she is, Tuesday Decoration Day matinee night, presenting Nan Patterson and Big Musical Company in a melodious, fantastical comedy, Romance of Panama. Really, this was just a regular play, but she came out at the end and sang a couple of songs. Once again, not too well reviewed. Nan's show was second class. And after a couple of weeks, she decided to just quit the whole thing. And later was accused of assault, too. But then she just kind of faded and disappeared from the news. Probably got married and had a couple of kids. So here, We'll move on a couple more years. In 1906, we have Evelyn Nesbit, who was also a Florodora girl. She had been on the show with Eddie Foy, the guy who was on stage at the Iroquois Theater, back in 1902. This one goes on for a while. She was married a guy by the name of Harry Thaw, was already fairly well known from her years of modeling. She was known as the Gibson Girl. And also had been having an affair. Well, affair is not really the right word, but she had been involved with Stanford White, the architect of McKim, Mead & White. Have a few buildings around Chicago, better known for their New York stuff. But really, he shows up on the Villains of Architecture tour. She was about 15 years old at the time that he took her back to his place to come look at his etchings. Gave her some sort of substance, and when she woke up, you can probably fill in quite a bit of the rest of this here. So, one night, Mr. and Mrs. Thaw, Evelyn and her husband, went out to Madison Square Garden, and there was Stanford White. Thaw went nuts and shot Stanford White to death. He had it coming. He ruined my wife, witnesses say he said. That was what they always said. There's Mr. White himself. There was actually a film of this made early on. Here's the trailer.
When America's richest playboy, Harry K. Thaw, walked to the table of Stanford White, America's most renowned architect, and shot him dead with a solid gold revolver.
I did it because he ruined my wife.
Few persons knew exactly why he did it, but nearly everybody knew over whom he did it. She was the model for the most famous picture Charles Dana Gibson ever drew. She was the most beautiful Florodora Corinne, the girl who had risen from penniless model to mistress of $40 million. She was Evelyn Nesbit.
All right. So, this trial was another sensational trial. Mrs. Thaw had to come and show off all of the letters that Stanford had written her, all of the examples of him being a lecherous fellow. Once again defended in court by William Travers Jerome. Eventually he was acquitted. There was a film made of this while it was still going on. There were even some people said that Evelyn played herself. In the clip of it that I have seen, I don't think that's exactly the case. But very quickly, she was appearing in a film, very early silent film called Redemption. And here's this is the headline from the beginning. What women are doing to get in the news. In this case, Evelyn Nesbit was dancing in Hullo Ragtime at the London Hippodrome. She ended up appearing at the Colonial Theater at one point, which was the old Iroquois Theater. There's just connections to the Iroquois all over this thing. Here she is appearing with Eddie Foy. She also appeared at the auditorium down over here doing some dancing. Now, by then, most people said they were just going there to see it out of curiosity. They would see it and say, okay, my curiosity is satisfied. By most accounts, she was okay. Not great, but okay. We do actually have a clip of her from 1930, almost 25 years after the fact. Here's Evelyn herself. Let's just show a clip of this. Not really listening to the orchestra there. I'm going to go ahead and say that she probably had some technical difficulties. But once again, my curiosity at least is satisfied, so we'll move on a little bit more. Now, we'll just do this one kind of quickly. We just covered this on the Time Travel Pub Crawl last week. The Ansonia Hotel, one of my absolute favorite buildings in all of New York City. Built by a guy by the name of William Earl Dodge Stokes, a real, he was what they would call a fella in those days. Well, you're a fellow, why you're another. W.E.D. Stokes built the Ansonia Hotel. Babe Ruth lived there. They had live seals and a fountain in the inside. There was a farm operating up on the roof. Was married to a woman who was way, way, way too young for him, as was kind of common in these things, but was also having an affair on the side with a woman by the name of Lillian Graham, as seen here. Now, eventually, her friend Ethel Conrad got the idea that, hey, you know, you could take those letters he's been writing you and blackmail him. So that's what they did. They worked the way on blackmailing him. That didn't work, so they ended up shooting him. While they were still on trial, really, or the trial was still ongoing, they went on stage. They appeared over at Hammerstein's Victoria Theater. Hammerstein was run by Oscar Hammerstein, son, Willie. Oscar Hammerstein was the big theater builder. His son, Oscar II, was that Hammerstein of Rodgers and Hammerstein. His brother, Willie, was running a theater that was known for its freak acts. Things like women who had shot somebody and decided to make a good vaudeville stage act for themselves. So they were brought in while they were still in court. Death or blackmail, my choice. She was eventually freed. By this time, they were already known as the Shooting Showgirls because they were appearing on stage, though their theater act was by no accounts particularly good. They would just kind of come out and sing That Mysterious Rag badly. Do I have it here? Yeah. I'll play just a second of this.
Wake up from your dreaming,
Screaming,
eyes gleaming, then if suddenly you take a screaming, that's it, that's what? That mysterious rag. While awake or while you're slumbering, you're saying, keep playing that mysterious rag. Are you listening? Keep listening. Look.
All right, we're going to skip ahead to a woman by the name of Beulah Binford in 1911. She was 17 years old and had been the on and off a girlfriend for about 4 years, since she was 13, of a guy by the name of Henry Clay Beatty in Richmond, Virginia. Had his baby when she was 15. It was given up for adoption, lived only for 1 year. At 17, Henry went and married somebody else, but they reconnected, and Henry ended up shooting his wife to death in a car. He said it wasn't him, it was a man with a goatee. Couldn't tell if it was a white man or a black man. The kind of thing you would normally notice when somebody came up to your window and shot you. But Beulah was never suspected or called to trial, but she was slammed in the press as the other woman. Made it all the way through the trial, getting headline after headline, hairpin found near the seam. Some people even said maybe she actually helped in the murder. Probably not the case. But we've got pictures of about everything in this kind of situation. But once she had made such a headline for herself, she was kind of unemployable anywhere except the vaudeville stage. So that's what she did. Girl in Beatty murder rushing here to make her debut in vaudeville. Now, women said that it was an insult to all womankind, but they tended to say that quite a bit. There was somebody wrote in saying, if this girl is permitted to go on the stage, it will be even worse than the sight of those dreadful Shooting Showgirls giving their shocking performance in vaudeville. I thought the time had passed when that sort of thing, when Nan Patterson was hissed off the stage, but it seems it hasn't. All I can say is there should be a law passed to prevent such a thing, a law that would protect themselves, the stage, and the poor girls themselves. I'm sure she was really concerned about the poor girls herself. She tried a vaudeville career. All that she's really known to have done, she was in a play called Grandma and made one silent film that is now lost. It was, by all accounts, not a successful career, but not the worst. She played the part of a maid and had a few lines. Her business is to stand in the center and look interestedly at the two principal figures who are carrying on the dialogue. She answers Grandma's bell and says, a letter, and later, 12 years? And finally makes her entreaty, oh, give her a chance. Reasonably easy part. So, by most accounts, she wasn't bad, but she also didn't have to do very much. Kind of quit while she was ahead. Now, this is one of the things that people started talking about by the 1930s. People were talking about this as just the kind of thing that would only have happened in the 20s, that era of beautiful nonsense. So this is Peaches Browning over here on the left. She was 15 when she met and married Daddy Browning, down there below me. He was 51. He was a real estate developer, and there's all these things talking about my wonderful Prince Charming. Well, once again, you know what I always say, when you're in your 50s and you talk a 15-year-old girl into marrying you, then she kills you and takes your money, it's kind of on you. She didn't end up killing him. She only remained married to him for about six months, during which he would give her dolls to play with and make her dress up in costumes. This ended up being satirized in the press endlessly eventually. They also spoke of asking her to perform an unnatural act, which, as we saw in Leslie Carter's case, that's what they called oral sex. In his case, the unnatural act was that he used to eat breakfast naked, which was considered horrifying. But just to show, he was always just such a publicity hound. Here's a picture of him playing leapfrog. He would always have her get a picture taken with every celebrity they would come with. Kept a honking goose in the bedroom for her. But whenever she started acting silly herself, he would start saying, oh, don't be a goof. So the judge sided entirely with him. They got the separation when she went to court, but no actual alimony or anything like that. You know, at the time divorce, you had to prove adultery before you could actually get a divorce in New York. One thing that she said was they asked, have you had intimate relations with him? And she said, I'll only say that his hands have not had intimate relations with soap and water in a very long time. So after all of this, of course, she went on the vaudeville stage where she sang and danced a little monologue. The song was called When Flaming Youth Marries Bitter Old Age. She eventually appeared at the Rainbow Club, which was here in Chicago. It was right where this is now, right across from St. Boniface Cemetery. But really, by 1930, I think possibly even before the 20s even ended, people were talking about this as like a relic of the old days, just one of those things from the 20s. But she eventually continued on stage for a good 5 or 6 years. She was in this thing, The Ritz Review, a movie-tone talking comedy, which would have been a very early one, really. This is 1926, this ad. So this is a very, very early talking picture. I don't believe it survives. Then she appeared live and in person at the State Lake Theater, downtown here in Chicago. And at the Congress Theater as well. Also Johnny Weissmuller on the screen. Now in 1954, people were starting to talk about her, say, hey, remember Peaches Browning? She was still around, still kind of hoping for a comeback in television, but it never quite came to pass. Now we have the lovely Violet Valley. Violet Valley was what was known as a baseball Annie in 1932. You can probably guess what a baseball Annie was. At one point, both the Cubs and the White Sox were being managed by people who had previously had affairs with Violet Valley back in the old days. We'll move up here. The building is still standing, a place called the Hotel Carlos. Not too far away from Wrigley Field, just several blocks south. Currently apartments. But the shortstop, Billy Jergis, was living here and dating Violet off and on, as a lot of players were, but she was a lot more serious about Billy. She liked him the best out of all of them, and eventually decided to shoot him because he didn't love her back. And she would only be quoted as saying, oh, it's odd, this being in love. Now, she wasn't a good enough shot that it was any particular damage was done. Billy decided to just make the whole thing go away by not pressing any charges. And thought that she would go on stage, but was warned, this doesn't usually work out for people. I love the phrasing here. Mr. Jergis was carried to the hospital with several ineffective slugs scattered about his interior. But she went and appeared at a theater, the old State and Congress Theater, which was right about here, about where the Harold Washington Library is now. Right about where Columbia College is now. Playing in something called The Bear Cub Follies. Screamingly funny burlesque production. We don't really know where the bear part here comes from, or too much exactly of what this was all about. We know that she like sang a little song and talked about baseball a little bit. She also would occasionally go around claiming, I've got letters from Billy. I've got letters from all of these people. They're all scandalous. Now, Billy Jerkus made it back out of the hospital just in time to play against Babe Ruth in the World Series. I'm going to skip up to Dorothy Pollock now. Dorothy Pollock, same year, 1932, shot her husband one day when he came after her with a knife and claimed self-defense. So she claimed self-defense. You can see here just White kills her husband. Meanwhile, she was also having an affair with Dingbat Oberta, but had been married to a guy by the name of Joe Pollock. Dorothy Pollock. And this is the kind of article you see a lot. What'll I wear, she worries as her trial comes up. But immediately while she was on trial, she was talking about her ambition to go on stage. She was defended in court by W. O'Brien, who is absolutely the inspiration for the lawyer Billy Flynn, who appears in the show Chicago. Some of the lines that Billy Flynn says came right out of W. O'Brien's mouth. A lot of reporters who attended the early versions of that play sat there saying, I know exactly who all of these people are. And naturally, he counseled her to clean up her act a little bit. You know, do all the praying in front of cameras you can. And it worked. She was eventually acquitted of murder and went on stage along with her cousin, who was a witness in the trial, right at the same place, the State and Congress Theater, where they were given $1,000 a week to put on a show. And by all accounts, the show was not great. It was a show called The Smith & Wesson Follies. Not a lot of data survives of it. But in one version, I think that her dramatic story, she was just going to go and tell the tale. And eventually was making, $1,000 a week for a while. That's, $1,000 was about 3 years' salary to a lot of people back then, or at least a couple of years' salary. So if she managed to keep this up for a few years, she would have at least been set for a while. But all right. Those are the Shooting Showgirls. I feel like I did a pretty good job of remembering everything there. So let me take a minute to plug the upcoming events. Next Thursday, we'll do one called Gold Coast Tales. I'm not working next Wednesday, so I'll have time to put everything back together. Next one's coming up in person, Saturday morning at 11 o'clock, 75 Ways to Die at Graceland Cemetery. And next Saturday evening after that, on the 16th, it'll be H.H. Holmes' The Devil Downtown by special request. Still some space left on 75 Ways to Die at Graceland Cemetery. So lots of great stuff coming up. Tomorrow, of course, will be Find a Grave Friday, running virtually on Facebook.com/MysteriousChicago. Plus, I'm sure we got a lot to discuss over on the Patty Vasquez Show Facebook page tomorrow evening on Whiskey and a Cookie. So with that, everybody, I will put the Benny Goodman back on, and we'll just hang out for a minute. Thanks, everybody. Plug. I wasn't going for the pun, but I'll say it was intended. Thanks, Vicky. Oh, Jerry, that's a very good book. Girls in Murder City. Yeah, John, we get 50% more causes of death for your money now. I might even be able to get more than that, really. I think I got about 85 on my current count. We're not going to cover all of them in depth. Some of them, this was a heart attack, liver congestion, aneurysm. I'll find Miles in a minute. Oh, he's right here. Miles. There he is. Nobody's died by coyote attack here yet. Kristen, yeah, you can come. If you've emailed me about the Patreon, sorry, I haven't gotten back on all of that. Just assume you're on the list. If you're on the top tier of the Patreon. It should really be up here. Normally it is patreon.com/AdamChicago. That's the most important thing. Ray, thanks for joining the Patreon. I can. Get the diphtheria, Illyria. Lynn, yes, Miles loves other people. Steve, Just Kill Me was marketed as a young adult novel, so it should be in the teenage section. I never should have written it as a young adult novel. It should have been adult. But, I've been writing another one that was going to be my next YA book, but then I happened to tell them, oh, I also got this other idea for this thing I was tinkering with. They said, we want that one. Okay. Now, marketing a funny book as YA is a great way to keep anybody from reading it. Aw, look at back. Thanks, Gene. Miles, do you like pina coladas? Do you take walks in the rain? You wouldn't like taking walks in the rain. Well, maybe you would. Miles likes getting wet. Not too wet, but he'll run through the shower. He likes getting dried, and he understands that you have to get wet before you get dried. See you, Beth. What is it things to knock down, Miles? You're not a big knocker downer, really. You're pretty good about not knocking stuff down. Most of the time. I spoke too soon. Miles. Karen, well, we'll miss you, but have a great vacation. Oh, he did. The book, the middle grade book that I just ghost wrote, the editor owned, and we love this draft. It's thanks so much for all the hard work and all the research you must have done. I'm like, yeah, definitely researched a lot. Didn't write it in a week. Yeah. I can't tell you which one that is. It's not. It's ghost written. It's a secret, but it'll outsell any book I ever wrote. Miles wants all the attention tonight. No, Miles, a werewolf drinking a pina colada at Trader Vic's. That's what you are. Are you gonna run amok in Kent? Good night, Bob. Stay spooky. There's just a middle grade series book. And they actually hired Ronnie, but she didn't have time to write a book in 3 weeks. She knew I could probably do it, so. Wanna stand up, Miles? I'll show everybody how you can stand up. All over town. Miles up here wanting all the attention tonight. Well, Ronnie had a blast in Paris. Yes, that is Priya over on the sofa back there, in front of the pillow. She's not sleeping, she's just sitting there. Yeah, Ronnie's home now. Ronnie and Aiden are both here. And Aiden's friend Benito is here. They've come to town for a con. Oh yeah, I got some liquid death right here. Did these guys know how to market to me or what? Miles. You want to come say hi to everybody, Miles? Who's that? Who's that cat? Who's that? Octavio, that's the one. The hipster bird should be back there. Yeah, it's hipster bird. Miles. Miles, don't get on the keyboard right now, okay? Ah, purr, purr, purr. I got cat hair all over me now. Miles. Itching or something? Well, here, do you remember we rigged up this whole thing? We rigged up a scratcher thing on the wall to him. And he's back. Ah, Jenna, that's nice. Octavio, I thought Gina Carano was canceled. I know Carl. I know all the guys from Clerks are there, and all four hobbits. Rob, canceled from the from being at the convention, not canceled. Canceled. I'm with you guys. I drink sparkling water a lot. I'm trying to cut back on pop for years now, and I do find that sparkling water scratches the itch just fine. And for the most part, if I sit down to have a drink with booze like it's not carbonated, it just doesn't work. You know, in Hebrew, the word for alcoholic is the same as spicy. Harif. Oh yeah, I've tried LaCroix, Bubla, all of the store brands. They're all about the same, really. I've tried them all. The watermelon lemonade ones at Trader Joe's are really tasty. There's also a blueberry lemonade one. Oh, in fact, I got one that's about half full on here. Score.
And we'll let the title speak for itself. Benny Goodman presenting Madhouse.
Miles, are you trying to dig through my paperwork or what? You gonna find anything in there? You see what I gotta put up with. Carol, I'm always working on new tours. They keep bugging me to do more boat tour days, then I lose kind of a whole day of possible research. Well, I was trying to do some research. And Priya's moved up a little bit, you see there. One day I'll actually figure out which way I have to turn my head on these things. It's only been 2 years, 4 months. Now, this is water well and lemonade, but it's really just water. But it is very good. It's a good summer drink. Amber, I did the tours aboard a boat called the Summer of George. But had it's known for being a very high ship. We got to duck under the bridges. I give a whole, before my regular tours, when I'm not working with just Mysterians, I give a whole English lesson. There's a lot of people that come on those tours don't speak English, which is fine. But we need to make sure you all know the word duck. When I say duck, you go like this. We'll do a couple of drills, but there was one guy the other day who seemed to think, because he did this over and over, he seemed to think duck meant stand up and hold up your baby. And about tackle him so he didn't bump into the bridges. But I don't really advertise these ones. They're just contract gigs that I pick up. I think they only sell tickets on Groupon. I only got one more day scheduled with them in a couple of weeks. But they've been bugging me to do more for August. I just don't know. I'm trying to come up with excuses why I can't. Alright, we'll let Benny Goodman finish up the tune here. And I'll cede the use of the living room. And figure out where I am going for Find a Grave Friday.
Presenting the music of Benny Goodman and his orchestra from the is the National Broadcasting Company.
All right, everybody. That's Benny wrapping up. So, just a quick plug. The next virtual event is going to be Gold Coast Tales, but of course we do virtual tours every morning. And on Sundays I try to log on about 10 minutes early, because even though I'm not doing an official tour, we'll do something anyway. So, Octavio, love it. Next one in person is 75 Ways to Die at Graceland Cemetery. That is coming up on Saturday morning. Still a few tickets left. And the Saturday after that, H.H. Holmes, The Devil Downtown. So thanks a lot for joining me, everybody. I'm Adam Seltzer for Mysterious Chicago Tours, saying as always, stay safe, stay strong, and of course, if you can, you gotta stay spooky, everybody. Have a good day.